From dangerous highways, expansive railroads, and massive dams, these 10 historical and famous projects push the limits of human engineering and construction, leaving behind them the gravestones of tens of thousands of workers. So coming in at number 10 on our list, we have the Aswan Dam, built across the Nile River in Aswan, Egypt. It was constructed between 1960 and 1970, with the primary purposes being controlling floods, providing water for irrigation, and generating hydroelectric power. The construction of the dam was a massive undertaking, with over 30,000 workers contributing to the building. 500 workers lost their life during the construction, with accidents, harsh working conditions, and diseases being among the factors contributing to the loss of life. At number 9, we have the Hawks Nest Tunnel. The Hawks Nest Tunnel is a 3-mile long tunnel located near Galley Bridge, West Virginia. Constructed between 1927 and 1932 as part of a hydroelectric project. The purpose of the tunnel was to divert water from the New River to a hydroelectric plant downstream, generating electricity for industrial purposes. The construction of the Hawks Nest Tunnel is infamous for the high number of worker deaths associated with the project, which is primarily attributed to silicosis, a deadly lung disease caused by the inhalation of silica dust.
My name is Waller Kincaid. I worked in the tunnel 4 or 5 weeks. Every day I hear of someone dying with silicosis. I worked until I got sick, and the doctor told me that it was silicosis. And he also told me that anyone that worked as much as 24 hours would not be living 15 years. I think something should be done for our wives and family after we are gone.
Once again, after the deaths, there was a public outcry.
The tunnel was drilled through a mountain primarily composed of silica, and the workers were not provided with proper protective equipment or ventilation. Many of the deaths were not immediate, but occurred over time as the workers developed silicosis and other respiratory complications. The working conditions during the construction of the tunnel were atrocious. Workers faced long hours, poor safety measures, insufficient ventilation, which exacerbated their exposure to the silica dust. Coming in at number 8, we have the Karakoram Highway, also known as China-Pakistan Friendship Highway. It's a 1,300 kilometer or 810 mile long road that connects Pakistan and China through the Karakoram mountain range. The highway, which is considered one of the highest paved roads in the world, traverses the challenging terrain of the Karakoram Himalayas in the Hindu Kush mountain ranges. Construction of the highway began in 1859 and was completed in 1979. Primary purpose is to improve economic and strategic relations between China and Pakistan. It's estimated that around 800 to 1,000 Pakistani workers, approximately 200 Chinese workers, lost their life during the construction. Workers had to endure extremely cold temperatures, high altitudes, low oxygen levels, unstable mountainous terrain, and the remote location of the construction sites made it challenging to transport necessary equipment, supplies, and medical aid. Coming in our 7th entry is the Transcontinental Railroad, which is a 3,000 kilometer long railway system that connected the existing eastern US rail network with the Pacific coast. Completed in 1869, it served as a vital transportation link between the east and west coasts of the United States. But it's estimated that 1,200 workers died during the construction, the primary causes being accidents, explosions, landslides, and diseases such as cholera and smallpox. Workers on both the Central Pacific and Union Pacific lines faced the constant threat of violence and attacks from Native American tribes who opposed the construction of the railway through their lands. The race between the Central Pacific and Union Pacific companies to lay as much track as possible led to an emphasis on speed over safety, which contributed to the high number of accidents and fatalities. Arriving at number 6 with the White Sea-Baltic Canal, we take a huge leap in terms of the death toll, which will only get more insane for the remaining entries. But real quick guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys who watch this channel travel often. You don't want to find yourself in a place that blocks all the apps you need. And so I thank NORDVPN for sponsoring this video, bringing you guys an unbeatable deal of 63% off plus 3 extra months when you sign up today. With over 5,000 servers in 59 countries, you can access any content you want anywhere in the world, bypass blocks, and enjoy lightning fast speeds. So getting back to the video, the White Sea-Baltic Canal is a 227 kilometer long waterway in Russia that connects the White Sea with Lake Onega. The canal was constructed between 1931 and 1933 during the rule of Stalin and served the purpose of providing a direct navigable route between the two seas, facilitating the movements of goods, resources, and people. The construction of the White Sea-Baltic Canal is infamous for its high death toll and brutal working conditions. The canal was built primarily using forced labor from the Soviet Union's Gulag system, which consisted of prison camps, political prisoners, criminals, and other enemies of the state were incarcerated. It's estimated that around 12,000 to 25,000 workers died during the construction, though exact figures are difficult to confirm. The main causes of death among the workers were exhaustion, malnutrition, exposure to harsh climate, accidents, and execution for perceived disobedience or poor performance. The canal was built in just 20 months, owing to the slave labor of the Gulag. The construction of the canal was used as a propaganda tool by the Soviet government to showcase the power and efficacy of the Soviet system. However, the reality of the brutal working conditions and high death toll were suppressed and only became widely known after the fall of the Soviet Union. Coming in at number 5, we have the Panama Canal. Its 51-mile-long artificial waterway connects the Pacific Ocean with the Atlantic Ocean. The Panama Canal was one of the biggest engineering projects of all time, but also one of the deadliest. The French initiated the project in 1881. They had to stop because of high worker mortality rate and engineering issues. Death rate of the entire project was 408 deaths per 1,000 employees. Over 25,000 people had lost their lives due to the harsh working conditions by the time the French stopped the project. When the United States took over in 1904, 5,600 more people died due to starvation and diseases. About 30,000 people lost their lives during the entire project. At number 4, we have the Burma-Siam Railway, also known as Death Railway. This railway is a 256-mile or 415-kilometer long railway between Banpong, Thailand, and Thanbu Zayat, Burma, which is now Myanmar. It was built during World War II by the Japanese Imperial Army using forced labor from Allied prisoners of war and local civilians. The purpose of the railway was to establish a direct supply route between Thailand and Burma, bypassing the dangerous sea routes that were under attack by Allied submarines. It's estimated that 90,000 civilian laborers and 12,000 Allied POWs died during the construction. The main causes of death being exhaustion, malnutrition, disease, malaria, cholera, and execution. The railway was also the backdrop for the famous 1957 film, The Bridge on the River Kwai. The film highlights the inhumane conditions faced by Allied POWs during the construction of the railway. Still standing as the world's longest railway line, the Trans-Siberian Railway was born out of a combination of forced labor, including convicts and soldiers, as well as voluntary laborers who were attracted by the promise of higher wages. Completed in 1916, this vast railway network spanning approximately 10,000 kilometers across Russia, from Moscow in the west to Vladivostok in the east, claimed upwards of 100,000 workers during its construction. The primary purpose of the Trans-Siberian Railway is to connect the diverse regions of the Russian Empire, facilitate the movement of people, goods, and resources. The main causes of death: accidents, disease, and exhaustion. The working conditions during the construction were extremely challenging. The workers had to contend with the extreme cold of the Siberian winters, swamps, mountains, and vast uninhabited regions with limited infrastructure. They also faced long hours, inadequate food, and poor living conditions. For our next entry, we have the Suez Canal, which according to any number of lists online about the world's deadliest construction projects, the Suez Canal repeatedly comes in as the second deadliest of all time, with 120,000 casualties. However, buried in a footnote on Wikipedia, we find that this figure of 120,000 is doubtless exaggerated. Muhammad Ali lost only 10,000 in making the canal from the Nile to Alexandria, and so nevertheless, this 10,000 figure is still extremely high and it deserves a spot on the list. Suez Canal is a man-made channel that connects the Red and the Mediterranean Seas through the Suez Isthmus. Suez Canal was opened in 1869 and offers marine vessels short journeys between the different parts of the oceans. The Suez Canal, you may remember, is also the spot of the famous Ever Given ship that went viral for running aground in July of 2021. Before getting to number 1, I wanted to throw in an honorable mention, which is the 1975 Banqiao Dam Failure. While the casualties were not direct from the job site construction, it was the aftermath of which led to the third deadliest flood in history, which affected a population of 10 million people. After Typhoon Nina caused the collapse of 62 total dams at once. 240,000 people lost their lives that day, with more than 5 million housing collapses. Most of the dams that collapsed in this disaster were built with the help of experts from the Soviet Union or during the Chinese Great Leap Forward. Construction of the dam focused heavily on the goal of retaining water and overlooked their capabilities to prevent floods. While the quality of dams was also compromised, the Banqiao Dam had been designed for a calculated 1 in a 1,000-year rainfall event. However, more than the normal yearly rainfall fell in just one day near the typhoon center. Experts told Zhang, a journalist visiting the area, privately that the land degradation that led to the collapse of the dam and the damage to the ecosystem due to Mao's Great Leap Forward were the major causes of the collapse of the dams. Moving now to number 1 on our list, it's the Great Wall of China, which it's estimated 400,000 to 1 million people died constructing it. The best known sections of the wall were built by the Ming Dynasty in 1368 to 1644, and several walls were built as early as 7th century BC, with the purpose being protection against various nomadic groups from the Eurasian steppe. The main body of the Great Wall extends for more than 5,000 kilometers, linking tens of thousands of block towers and beacon towers. The Great Walls were constructed with the rises and falls of China's feudal dynasties over a period of 2,700 years. The remains can be found in the country's 16 provinces and autonomous regions. The masonry that went into the construction of the walls would be enough to erect a wall 1 meter thick and 5 meters high, encircling the earth more than 10 times. No other project in the world can boast such a huge amount of work in its making. And today, the Great Wall stands as one of China's most well-known tourist attractions. The top reasons for the high numbers of casualty are harsh working conditions, forced labor, dangerous construction practices, disease, malnutrition, and overwork. And with so many lives lost and their remains buried in the wall, it has led to the Great Wall's grim nickname of the longest cemetery on Earth. Right, so with that guys, please subscribe for more Squalid Suburbs, make sure to check out NORDVPN, and thank you for watching.